Yeah, I still have a cold. Hey, these things don't go away overnight, okay? And you know what? If you don't like my podcast, it's free. What do you care? You don't have to listen to it. Just don't listen to it. I don't care if you listen to it or not. Plenty of other people are going to listen to it. But if you do decide to stick around and tolerate me, I thank you. Because that means that you're listening. That means that, you know what? I don't even know. Maybe if nobody was listening, I would still be doing this because I'm crazy like that. I want to try to tackle a topic that I've tried maybe to touch on before. It's a big topic. Now, before I start on this, I want to tell you that I'm not a religious person, meaning that I don't subscribe to a Christianity or Hinduism or Buddhism, and I appreciate all the religions that exist and all the religions that I study for different reasons. I got really into studying religion some time ago, but I don't do that so much now. You have to move on with different things. You build different interests. Also, there's, over the past several years, atheism has become really big, and being very hard science and very black and white of what is real and what is not real. I don't subscribe to that school either, because I think it's quite arrogant and impossible, and mostly arrogant, to think that we know everything, not just because our senses are so limited in light of there possibly being more than 3 dimensions and a spectrum of light that we can't see and who knows what else. But arrogant in the sense that what we're currently doing and what we currently value are the lens, which is the lens that we're seeing the world through, that this is the end all be all. It's very possible that, say, the ancient Egyptians didn't come up with electricity the way that we do because they were happy enough to never need to do so. It's quite possible that Native Americans never invented the quote-unquote wheel because necessity is the mother of invention, and that's not because they were dumb. Clearly they were not. If you look down all the way from the North America to the Mayans to the Peruvians, that maybe they didn't need to. They didn't have that need. Maybe we're the most needy advanced culture in the history of humanity that we know of. So I don't subscribe to that idea either, that atheist, show me, prove it to me. It's a very big topic, and it's very intricate. The edges of where I start and stopped concerning this topic, my belief system, my ideas about it, are not smooth. They're in and out, like the edges of an island. And I just don't see this topic that I'm talking about as so black and white. Now, this is a sensitive topic. It's sensitive to non-believers, and it's sensitive to believers. Maybe more to believers. The topic is God. This is something that makes up the very fiber of somebody's view of the world. It's maybe even the lens that they view the world through. It's like that. And of course, there's probably a few different areas to a lens that people view things through. Like, you can believe in God and be a vegan, but let's just say that this is a big one. This is a big part for many people. And I'm not dogmatic. I have no intention of attacking anyone's faith or convincing anyone of anything they don't want to believe in. But I've come to see God as not so much an anthropomorphic entity, I've come to see God as more of an energy. And this is the part where this topic starts to annoy me, is because the words that I have, the tools in the toolbox, verbally, are all used up and smeared and tattered. And this is why I think that it resonates so much with me, maybe you too, when I read certain scriptures of certain religions or belief systems that say the best way to experience God is through silence. Because in silence, nothing is broken. I think I covered it in a podcast previously where I was talking about a piano. And on a piano, all of the notes are ringing undetectably. And then you lift the damper pedal and you hit a couple of the notes, and the whole piano resonates according to those notes. Similarly with words, I use one of these words like energy or vibration or something like that, where many people right away would be like, oh, that's hacky. Even scientifically, the words are faulty, although they're more specific, although more crude and more convinced of themselves, they're still very faulty. So you have to use your social intuition to understand what I'm talking about. Otherwise, you ultimately will not know what I'm talking about. If you can't like tap in or tune in to me or tune in with what I'm saying, we don't have the visual aspect here to go off of either. But this is the part where it annoys me because of the words. But I've come to see God as an energy, as a whole, as something that I don't understand, but I'm a part of and that I can communicate with. Not communicate with necessarily through words, although, in the sense like, why would this being listen to me? Well, I'm inside of the piano. I'm inside of that piano that I mentioned. When I speak up, the universe, let's say, this little tiny germ on an ant of a planet, living on a snowflake, is being heard. But I see it as an all-encompassing thing. I see God as an all-encompassing thing. Like absolutely everything that exists is God. One of the most offensive things that you can say, from what I remember about Christianity, is that you are God. Isn't that why the devil was cast down? Because he was trying to be like God. But I can't help but wonder and think about the roots of modern day Christianity and who was in control of the books at the time and what narratives they would have liked to put into place. If someone, let's say there was kings, and maybe I don't know enough about the topic, but for what I'm talking about, there was kings and queens, and they needed to have command over the people. Thusly, there was the Catholic Church, which is an enormous entity, a very powerful entity. They were the speaker and the microphone through which God can hear you. And if you were to try to take that level of authority upon yourself, that would be frowned upon greatly by them. If you were to try to take that kind of authority upon yourself in life without them knowing, I don't think that God would condemn you unless you're trying to do something nefarious. Then when you're trying to do something nefarious and it affects others, well, even if it doesn't affect others, it'll eventually come around and affect you negatively. But when you try to when you're doing something bad or evil, something that others will not like or maybe want to kill you for, then those kinds of repercussions tend to come back to you. Unless you have a mass of subservient people who turn the other cheek. the thing that I think most people are missing, the thing that is missing from the scriptures, the things that are missing from our teachings, is ultimate accountability, which is to say that people are God too, that every individual is God, and what every individual does makes the world the way that it is. Now, am I saying that you or I are exclusively God? No. As I mentioned, I see it as a whole, as an entire entity. And the way that you would act, the way that I would act, would be like the way that the notes were tuned inside of the piano. Do they want to be harmonious, or do they want to be dissonant? I suspect that a lot of people in the Christian faith would find this alarming. Firstly, because of the teaching that you're not supposed to compare yourself to such a being. And secondly, because it completely cuts off the tether to the anthropomorphized supreme being, in the sense that he will step in and help you. I do believe that with certain actions and certain words and certain emotions and feelings, things that for the internal world are like body language to communication in the external world, I believe there are things that are that subtle but still have a great effect. But I noticed that having lived for 43 years, things are best affected in our world when there's a mixture of internal and external work. Sometimes I internally chuckle at the idea that I'll have to explain to my young children about the universe and how we don't know if it's endless or not, and how much we don't know about it. It's like if we're riding in an airplane or in a car, and they're born in the car, and they're asking me about where we came from, and I'm like, I don't know. And they ask me, where are we ultimately going? And I'm like, I don't know. Perhaps when it comes to the teachings that I think are missing from the Christian scriptures and maybe the Muslim scriptures and maybe Judaic scriptures, and I've seen this mentioned in Buddhist scripture, something like this, is that perhaps God is applauding this idea right now, that we take accountability, that we let go of the teachings of the kings and the queens, and we realize that we are a part of it all. That's what's been missing this whole time through all of these wars and holy wars and turmoil and suffering. The way that humans behave could be because of an aberration in them. This is what makes me think sometimes that there's intervention when it comes to humans on planet Earth. Because somewhere along the way, Western man, or not even Western, but even in ancient Asia, there was wars and things like that. But humanity lives largely out of balance with their environment. Unless you're talking about like hunter-gatherers. But humanity seems to have a chronic imbalance issue throughout history. And why would that be? Like, did a meteor hit the earth and some sort of gas had an effect on people? Or did an alien race just for a week land on here and mate with some humans? You know, you can say that's ridiculous, but it's definitely not impossible, not in the universe that we live in. In the end, we won't know the answer to that. So, in a nutshell, when you stop pulling the trigger, people will stop getting shot. When you stop hating others and acting on it, people will stop having hate crimes committed on them. When you stop being selfish, people will no longer be abused. Now, also about the aberration, if you took, say there was another planet on a distant solar system, and we seeded humans there, do you think that they would eventually invent iPhones and self-driving cars and things of that nature? Because we act like the whole universe, every planet that we pass with our satellites, is a failed attempt at being us. Now, on that other planet, there's no reason why the humans on that planet can't accentuate and develop other facets of themselves and live a life in a completely different way. Like, for example, if you're in a society that fosters intuition, is your intuition stronger? I think so. If you're in a society that fosters and celebrates war, is your sense of war stronger? I remember clearly when I was in grade school, maybe third grade or second grade, but I remember learning math or words, but I think it was mathematics. I'm pretty sure it was math. And thinking to myself, whatever it is that I already intuitively know and can develop, I'm about to lose it, because this society is going to strike a certain chord, and my original potential will be molded and shaped. All of the potential of my mind and my brain molded and shaped to adapt to this society. That feeling, that idea never left me, and I decided to make a mental note that day that I had thought of that. And I never forgot it. It's like if there's an original self in humanity and people crying out, trying to find a way to get back home because we've veered off of the path. I think that we can't help but try to stray back to that path. And here's where dogma can get tricky, because then you can have people from different belief systems telling you that their way is the original way. My best guess at that, even after having said all of this, is that the way can be found in silence. And it's not a cop-out. It is just that contemplation in silence, while listening to the subtle vibration of all of the notes, is how you can more clearly see what's really going on. Namaste, motherfuckers. You just had to fuck it up. Goliath, you just had to fuck it up with that last thing, namaste. Your little joke. Huh? It was perfect, right? It was perfect. And now you turned it into some big joke. No, it's not a joke. But humor Humor is wonderful. If you don't have any humor, get away from me, all right? If you don't know how to laugh about just about anything, you need to cross the street, go to the other side of the block. I'm not sitting at the table with you. I don't want to hang out with you. Humor is a wonderful thing. But seriously, this is my best attempt at a linear expression, a linear verbal expression about this. Oh, and here's one more thing. I was talking about the atheist theme earlier. And, I've had atheists telling me that, they're looking at me, we're standing there, we're talking about this and that. And they're like, yeah, whatever. It's just synapses in your brain. And this is going on. Like if I'm talking about something like a theme like this, they're dismissing the whole thing. And they're telling me that there's no magic and that there's no miracles. Is there magic the way that we traditionally know it? I think we're learning that the earth is round when it comes to that. But concerning miracles, I have this dude who is standing on a planet that is floating around an enormous sun, which is in a solar system, which makes up a solar system. And this dude who's made up of electricity and cells and neurons is talking to me and explaining to me how he can look into outer space and at the earth and that there's no miracles. And this dude who we can't even find another planet anywhere that has what's happened here the way that we know it to have happened. And this person is telling me that there's no such thing as miracles. It's like a miracle telling me that miracles don't exist. All right, peace, miracles. Feel free to donate to the podcast and give me some of your miraculous money. You know what? If you don't want to, you don't have to. But if you want to, it's atlanticradio.blogspot.com. And that's where you can hit my tip jar. And also, you know what? People who are listening to this on YouTube, I want you to know that if you go to that website, there's audio too, and you can just download it and you can subscribe on iTunes. All right, I'm out. I gotta go.